time, there was a young basketball player who had dreams of becoming one of the greatest basketball players of all time.
You have the opportunity to go to the NBA and play against the greatest players in the world. That doesn't get you going. I don't think anything will. It's like a dream come true.
I couldn't even dream of this when I was a kid. There's just no way possible. It's just, just a blessing from above.
The joy of the game comes from just being out there and just playing. The competitive side of me feels like we can win every game that we play.
What I've learned is to always keep going. Do you love the process that gets you to that, those boring, agonizing moments? If you love that, then you know you found something that's really true to you.
If you do the work, you work hard enough, dreams come true. Those times when you get up early and you work hard, those times when you stay up late and you work hard, those times when you don't feel like working, you're too tired, you don't want to push yourself, but you do it anyway. That is actually the dream.
If you're a fan of mine, you're a fan of winning. You're a fan of the Lakers. That's never going to change. Man, I gave my soul to this game, man. There's nothing more I could give. I wanted to be one of the best basketball players to ever play, and anything else that was outside of that lane, I didn't have time for.
It's not about my jerseys that are hanging up there for me. It's about the jerseys that were hanging up there before. Growing up and watching all these great players play and learning so much from them, to now be a part of that wall, means everything to me.
You get older, you start to understand that really it's about the next generation. That these championships do come and go. But the most important thing you can do is to pay everything that you learn forward to the next generation to come. And that's truly how you create something that lasts forever.
I love storytelling. You imagine, winning an Oscar, how ridiculous that would be.
And the Oscar goes to...
Unfortunately for us athletes, we've been pigeonholed into thinking that we can only be one thing. I'm here to show people that we can do much more than that. Winning an Oscar, winning the Emmy and the Annie, those are things that are showing other athletes that come after. No, there's more to this thing. The discipline, the commitment, the team, the community. How do I take those lessons and move those here? Having that sharp focus is something that I got from the game of basketball. You have to dance beautifully in the box that you are comfortable dancing in. My box was to be extremely ambitious within the sport of basketball. Your box is different than mine. Everybody has their own. It's your job to try to perfect it and make it as beautiful of a canvas as you can make it. And if you have done that, then you have lived a successful life. You have lived with Mamba mentality.
Being married to my wife Vanessa, it's fun. We have a good time together. I love her tremendously, but we're best friends too. It's a blessing. When we're raising our daughters, and one of the things that we teach them is you just gotta try your best. You just gotta give it your all, give it everything you have.
As parents, you gotta lead by example. If you want your kids to do whatever it is they want to accomplish in life, you have to show them. I have 4 girls, so my mission is to make sure women have opportunities. Our daughters will grow up understanding that they can be strong, they can be independent, they can be fierce.
I just love spending time with my family and just being a husband, being a father, being a goofball, just having a good time with my kids.
I grew up a diehard Laker fan. And to spend 20 years here, I mean, you can't write something better than this.
You got 19 or 20 years to play with the Lakers.
Yeah, 19 or 20 at least.
Appreciating all this, the journey that we've been on. We've been through our ups and been through our downs. I think the most important part is that we all stayed together throughout. You guys will always be in my heart. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. God, I love you guys. What can I say? Mamba out.
All right, lace them up, sports. Let's go.
Let's go.
The LA Sports
Roundup Podcast.
Was there any doubt? Shohei Ohtani arrives in October with a 3-run home run. To beat the champ, you gotta knock him out. The Dodgers stand tall and win back-to-back titles. Pulls back, three-pointer, bang! Luka Doncic nails the three. Timeout Rockets. Luka Magic is alive. Is he in? Yes. Touchdown, Puka Nacua. Touchdown, LA. Final seconds, Reeves. He'll count it goes. Oh, he puts it in from half court at the buzzer. Under pressure, Donald got there in the air, intercepted by the Rams, and they may ride to the Super Bowl on that.
You see a guy with a Celtics jersey at Disneyland, I'm ready to kill him. Just because he's wearing a Garnett jersey, and I'm pissed.
Welcome to the LA Sports Roundup Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Andrade, sitting here recording Monday, August 24th, 2026. It is Mamba Day, Kobe Bryant Day, 8/24. We are honoring the legacy of undoubtedly one of the greatest basketball players to ever touch a basketball and grace a court. But this guy, he was an author. He was an Oscar winner, not just Oscar nominee, an Oscar winner. If you think about how great his basketball career was and the short time we had with him after that, it was incredible to see how much he did in terms of the books he wrote, the obviously winning an Oscar for the Dear Basketball short film that he created. That was incredible to see it all play out in front of us, and we surely do miss him. And today we are honoring the great Kobe Bryant, his legacy, and what he meant to me, what he meant to the city of LA, what he meant to basketball. And that's what we want to accomplish today and get into some personal stories. But before we do that today, guys, as always, you can find us on all of our social medias at Lace 'em Up Sports. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on where, if you're listening to this right now, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on X. Where else are we on? We're on everything. So search us up at Lace 'em Up Sports with an underscore, by the way. At Lace 'em Up Sports with an underscore, and you can follow us. You can subscribe to us. We are still on the rise of getting our subscriber and following count up. So it's all part to you guys. All right, you guys doing your part, and then obviously me throwing out that content out there. And obviously you do not want to miss any content that's out there. This weekend alone, I had put together a reel for Kobe Bryant's All-Star Games appearances, Kobe Bryant's NBA Finals appearances. All that's up on the YouTube channel. It's up on the Instagram. It's up on the TikTok. Guys, if you haven't seen it already, go like, subscribe, and you can see all the things that I put up there for you guys, and you do not want to miss a thing. I think what's fascinating about Kobe is that with almost everybody, except for probably Magic Johnson, if you grew up in that era, we as Laker fans during this era, we grew up with Kobe. Kobe started his career in 1996. I was probably 5 or 6 years old at the time, starting kindergarten, so I watched his entire career play out. And it wasn't always rainbows and sunshine, as everyone knows. Kobe Bryant's career was a roller coaster, and it was full of ups and downs and turns and twists and anything you can imagine within this guy's basketball career. And everything he went through, everything that he overcame, he did it on his own merit, and he worked extremely hard, harder than anybody would ever work during his time in the NBA. And this guy was not only the kid that came from Philadelphia to LA in terms of starting his basketball career, but he was the son of LA. And I feel like through everything he went through with all the ups and downs with Shaq, and then the Colorado case, and then him demanding a trade in 2006, then all the way to winning championships with Pau Gasol, then getting, injured, his Achilles, then his final season, which statistically wasn't a great season for Kobe. I mean, look, we were there through all of it. That's the point I'm trying to make. And for us to witness his entire career, it was an honor. It was an absolute honor. And not only the bad stuff, but I mean, a mountaintop of just great moments that he provided each and every one of us that witnessed his entire career. All of the game winners, every highlight flashy dunk, every steal, every pass, every time he put on the cape, the Superman cape, and just willed the team to victory, every crazy shot from the field that he ever took, we were there for all of it. And those memories will never be forgotten in Laker lore. And it's just something that over time we can just continue to appreciate and just remember, and on days like today, just honor his career and his legacy. Now, one thing I'll always be grateful for is the memories that Kobe Bryant provided for not just myself, but for my family to get together and watch these games that he was playing in and just be in awe of what was going on when he was on the court. Just being there with my dad, being there with my brother. So many times when, he would hit a game winner, I would jump up into my brother's arms and we would just celebrate. And, obviously we were probably kids at the time, but even if we weren't little kids at the time, because his career spanned from my childhood to my adulthood, we acted like little kids if he hit a game winner. The same thing with my dad, and just celebrating the moments together with my brother and my dad, celebrating the championships, celebrating his last game. That was, and we'll get into that later, but holy cow, just being able to celebrate him, but together as a family, that's what sports is all about. Being able to sit around the couch with your family and cheer on your favorite players and your favorite team. Acting delusional when your team doesn't get a foul and, you're screaming at the TV, where the hell is the foul at? That's what family is all about. Just coming together in stride and just be diehards together and go through the wins and the losses. That is everything that you want in terms of sports, being able to sit down with your family. And that's what Kobe Bryant provided. And I'm so grateful for all that. When you talk about Kobe Bryant, you're not just talking about basketball. You're talking about Los Angeles. You're talking about the Staples Center. You're talking about the purple and gold. You're talking about childhood memories, playoff nights, championship parades, and the feeling that no matter how bad things got, if Kobe had the basketball, there was always a chance. And that's something as Laker fans, we always knew, we could be down by 30, and if Kobe Bryant was playing, we were like, okay, it's still possible we could win this game. We were so accustomed to seeing Kobe Bryant put on the cape that we kind of just, I don't think we ever took it for granted, but it was just kind of yeah, it's Kobe. We looked at him as a demigod. We looked at him as a superhero. He could do anything on the court, and that's who we really thought Kobe Bryant was. January 26, 2020 changed Los Angeles forever. I think it's just one of those memories where, unfortunately, it's going to be a vivid memory in a lot of people's heads where they can remember exactly where they were when they heard the news that Kobe Bryant passed away. I remember I was at my house. I was prepping for people to come over to watch the WWE Royal Rumble later that evening, and I just remember being on my phone and seeing something where it had talked about Kobe Bryant passed away, R.I.P. Kobe, and I just thought that's kind of weird because the prior night the Lakers had played the Philadelphia 76ers, and I remember LeBron James had passed Kobe Bryant up in, I think it was a scoring list, the all-time scoring list. I think he passed Kobe Bryant from fourth to third, and later that night, Kobe Bryant tweeted LeBron James congratulating him, and LeBron James spoke at length talking about how much Kobe Bryant meant to him. While LeBron was in high school, it was just motivation for him, and then coming to the league, playing against him, yada, yada, yada. And so I thought they were referring to that for some reason. And then more tweets had just come out saying R.I.P. Kobe. And I was just like, what is this? This has to be some kind of sick joke. It really had to have been. Because Kobe, I mean, he was, even though he had been retired for about, 3-4 years, maybe 5 years at that point, it still felt like Kobe Bryant was our superhero. There's no way he could pass away. And obviously, like, something special happened last night. Kobe acknowledged LeBron. Like, there's no way he passed away. So that's what was going on in my head. And then I saw the TMZ report, and that's just when everything kind of went crazy. Obviously, they have reported that Gigi Bryant was on the plane, other people. They originally reported that all of his family was on the plane, and it got so sickening to the point where I just wanted to put down my phone, and I didn't want to believe anything that was happening. I know some people or some tweets were coming out saying that Rick Fox was on the plane, which is totally bogus. But eventually it was reported that it was just Gigi, but alongside several other people on that plane. Not plane, the helicopter, I should say. But regardless, just finding out that Gigi was on the helicopter with Kobe and all those other people, it was so devastating. I remember having to tell my brother, who was asleep because he works graveyards, and waking him up telling him that Kobe Bryant passed away. That was hard. I didn't even know what to say at that point, and I just remember getting texts and phone calls, and I really just did not know what to say to anybody at that point. I think that's probably the way when shocking news happens, I kind of just shut down. I really just don't know what to do or say. I feel like I've learned that about myself over the last several years, where I just kind of go into this, not a trance, but I just really am at loss for words when anything bad happens. And yeah, definitely that day it was I just did not know what to do or say. We eventually watched the Royal Rumble, and I remember them acknowledging it. At that point, it was everywhere. You had seen players in different games or around the NBA start to break down on camera. It was a really, really sad and heavy, not just day, but following days, weeks going by. I remember my brother, my niece, my nephew, we went out to Staples Center. We signed the big boards that were out there, and my God, I mean, you would think that there was a game going on, because there was thousands of people out there trying to sign those big boards. And then they had even the ground where you could sign and just decorate. So many people brought flowers, so many people brought balloons and basketballs and this, that, and the other. It was quite the scene out there, and probably something we'll never ever be able to experience again, because it wasn't a joyous atmosphere. It was very somber, and that was quite to be expected out there. But yeah, Kobe Bryant's passing was very, very heavy, and it's still felt to this day. I truly believe in, Kobe Bryant, he's physically not here anymore, but his legacy, his continued. I know his oldest daughter, Natalia, had graduated from USC, and she's doing big things out in Hollywood and LA and marketing herself, and she's on the rise. Also, Kobe Bryant left behind 2 other little girls. Unfortunately, they'll never know their father, but they'll know the legacy for sure, and that's going to be with thousands and millions of people remembering the legacy of Kobe Bryant. Obviously, they still have their uncle Pau Gasol that is very, very connected to the family, Rob Pelinka as well. So they're going to be well taken care of, and they're obviously going to know the legacy of their father. But unfortunately, they'll never know him physically. But Vanessa herself, Kobe's widow, she's doing a great job at honoring his legacy, and it's going to be something that she's going to continue to do for a long, long time. With Nike, they just put on the Kobe 3-on-3 outside Staples Center. They have it every year, like the basketball tournament, and Vanessa was there with the girls and everything, and so she does a great job at honoring Kobe, and that's exactly what you would hope to see, with the family continuing forward without himself and Gigi, but honoring them and Gigi as well. We can't forget about Gigi Bryant in this process, because, we lost her as well. And she was going to be the one that was going to take over the legacy in terms of basketball. It's so unfortunate that, she was on that helicopter as well. And, we lost a potential not only a great basketball player in the future, but, we lost a human being. They lost their daughter. Natalia lost her sisters. Those little girls lost their big sister, and that's just tragic in itself as well. But off a somber note, we're going to go ahead and talk about Kobe's career in retrospect a little bit. We all knew him from the kid in high school coming from Philadelphia to LA. He was drafted 13th overall in the first round in 1996 by the Charlotte Hornets. The Lakers acquired him shortly thereafter by trading their then star center, Vlade Divac, and that was a pretty controversial move considering they had not already traded for Shaquille O'Neal at that point. They were in talks. Jerry West, the then Lakers GM, was very much in talks with Shaq's camps about signing him as a free agent from the Orlando Magic, but that hadn't happened yet. So the Lakers went about their business and they traded their star center, who had been with them since the Showtime era, well, the end of the Showtime era, the Magic Johnson era for sure, Vlade Divac. They traded him to the Charlotte Hornets in return for the 18-year-old sensation Kobe Bryant. But as we all know, the Lakers eventually end up acquiring Shaquille O'Neal, and then they're off to the races. But it's not all rainbows and sunshine. We all remember the air balls in Utah, Kobe's rookie year in the playoffs, and the years following that, it just didn't seem like the Lakers were gelling right together. They had Kobe, who was on the rise. He was already an all-star by 1998, alongside Shaq and Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones. Jones and Van Exel would eventually be off the team by 1999, but it just didn't feel like there was anything that was going to bring the Lakers to their ultimate success. They had gotten to the Western Conference Finals in 1998. They ended up firing their head coach, Del Harris, and we didn't know if the Lakers were going to be able to reach the promised land. But fortunately for the Lakers, the Zen Master Phil Jackson was leaving Chicago, who had come off of 6 NBA championships with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, and he was ready to come to LA and bring championships to LA, and that's exactly what happened. We all know the success that happened with Phil, Kobe, and Shaq, the three-peat era, and it was really like something that, Lakers fans, obviously we were basking in the glory of those days, but it was Shaquille O'Neal's team. It wasn't Kobe Bryant's team at that point. And, the years that they were in the finals, winning championships, it was really something that Kobe Bryant felt like he had to not only prove to himself, but prove to everybody else that he was capable of winning a championship on his own. Yeah, he loved winning championships with Shaq, but there was a lot of freaking grief that was happening with him and Shaq in the process. And he felt like, in order to fulfill his own goals and aspirations, he wanted to win a championship, multiple championships, as the undisputed leader of the team. And the first 3, it was no doubt it was Shaq, because he was the Finals MVP in all of those series, and it was Shaq's team. Obviously you still had guys that were Kobe guys, but majority of those guys on the three-peat era of the Lakers, guys like Robert Horry, Rick Fox, they were Shaquille O'Neal guys. And obviously, the beef between Shaq and Kobe is well documented, and it's just something that people ask all the time. Could they have won more championships together if they were on the same page? And I truly believe, honestly, yeah, I think they could have. If they really decided to put their differences aside and come together as the both of them could. I mean, look what happened. Look at what happened. Shaq ended up being traded to Miami. He won a championship with Dwayne Wade. Right, it was only one championship, but he was able to still be the second banana on a championship team in 2006. Kobe was entering his prime, right, or in the middle of his prime, and he was a scoring renegade and a top defensive player. I mean, this guy was, if not the best player in the NBA, he was top 1, 2, or 3, at least in that time frame. So Kobe was able to lead, and that's where Kobe Bryant, he was going from the kid that was rebellious and wanted to do things his own way into becoming more of a leader in himself. So I believe that during that time, from like 2004, 2005, 2006, maybe 7, yeah, they could have won more championships together if they stayed together. But that ultimately was not the path. Shaq went to Miami. He won a title in 06. Kobe, he had some lean years with the Lakers there, 05, 06, 07. But eventually they traded for Pau Gasol, and they ended up winning 2 more championships in the Kobe, Gasol, Lamar Odom, Andrew Bynum, Phil Jackson era. I mentioned Kobe becoming more of a leader just a second ago, and I want to touch on that just a little bit more because during that time, he really developed his own leadership style. Yeah, in the early 2000s, he really emulated and tried to be like Michael Jordan. And, obviously it's well documented how Jordan would just berate into people, his teammates, cuss him up a storm. And that was basically Jordan's aggressive leadership style. And Kobe, he emulated Jordan, and anything Jordan did, he wanted to copy. And so that's what Kobe did in his early years. And it did, little bits of that did stick with Kobe towards, all of his career. Especially, I think it kind of reared its ugly head towards the last few seasons of Kobe's career because of who he had. But his leadership style developed right around that 2006-2007 era for a couple reasons. He looked at what Shaquille O'Neal was doing in Miami. Shaq had already won a championship, and Kobe was forced to look at himself in the mirror. If I want to win a championship, I need to be able to understand who my teammates are. And yeah, I can get away with berating some of them, but not all of them. And it's not gonna work with everybody. And I think also having Derek Fisher back on his side in 2008 helped with that too, because it was another proven guy, a leader on the team that could help Kobe lead his teammates. But Kobe was forced to look at himself in the mirror and say, I need to change up my style just a tad, because it straight up wasn't working during that time. I think also too, Team USA for Kobe, it really benefited him so much. Not really in terms of basketball, but leadership. I think he was around coaches like Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K. He was around coaches like Greg Popovich, but also he was around the best of the best: LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Dwight Howard, Darren Williams at that time. Who else was on that Team USA team in 08? Carmelo Anthony, Jason Kidd. All these guys that were just veterans of the NBA, but the best of the best. And Kobe needed to be able to say, hey, look, if I'm the best player in the NBA, which he was, I need to be able to prove it not just on the court, but in the locker room as well. And he was able to lead these guys to a Olympic gold medal in 08. And I think that really did wonders for getting Kobe to become the leader he was, or at least he could be, in terms of being able to lead a team to championships. And it all paid off. Just a year later, in 2009, Kobe was able to lead a young team with Pau Gasol, but Andrew Bynum, Lamar Odom, Trevor Ariza to the 2009 NBA championship and be the undisputed leader of that team, alongside Derek Fisher. But that was an amazing accomplishment for Kobe, because that was getting him, over the mountaintop, and be able to prove to himself that he was able to lead a team to a championship and get him his 4th title. And then going back to back in 2010, beating the Celtics, who the Celtics whooped on the Lakers in 2008. They whooped on them, right? And that's where Kobe was able to. I think he needed to look at himself in the mirror and say, "Look, if I need to get these guys over the path, I need to change my leadership style as well." And so in 2010, Kobe Bryant, in Game 7 especially, Kobe Bryant was not having a great game, but he was able to trust the process, trust his players that they were able to come through, and that's the leadership style that I'm talking about. He was able to trust that Ron Artest was going to hit that shot. He was able to trust that Pau Gasol was going to be able to be physically able to go up against the guys like Kevin Garnett and Rasheed Wallace. He trusted his players at that point. He trusted Sasha Vujacic to hit that clutch free throw at the end of Game 7. And, like I said, Kobe Bryant did not have a great game in that Game 7, but he was able to do the intangibles: rebound, defend, everything that you would need of a leader. And that's who Kobe Bryant became. Now, after that, Kobe Bryant, he was still searching for that elusive 6th NBA championship that he never got, unfortunately, during 2011, 2012, 2013. And he was really, during that 2013 season, that was really the last season that Kobe Bryant was truly great. And there were so many times during that season that he was able to put on the cape and will his team to victory. I remember so many times, especially a game against the Atlanta Hawks, twice against the Hawks, I believe, the Trailblazers, the Raptors, which we're going to talk about that game. That was on my birthday. And then obviously the game where he tore his Achilles against the Warriors. He was giving it all. And he actually willed the team to the playoffs. Even though he tore his Achilles that game, he willed the team to the playoffs. And obviously he couldn't play because he tore his Achilles. But he had put on the cape once more for the Lakers. But unfortunately, that was it for Kobe. He did play 3 more seasons 2 of those seasons ended in injury again, one to his knee, another one to his shoulder, and then his final season as well. Did mention that some of the ugliness of Kobe Bryant's younger career in terms of leadership peaked its head because Kobe Bryant did not have the talent around him at that point. They were all just rookies, second-year guys, and veteran players that really weren't any good at all on that team. And so Kobe was looking around, and he was so used to being able to compete and win, and all these guys, it was a struggle to even motivate them to even get up for a game. And so some of that leadership stuff, you look at some of the recent interviews from Julius Randle and others, Kobe was on these guys for sure, the times that he was around. But yeah, that whole season, it was all just about Kobe Bryant retiring, and it was the retirement tour, and it was strictly just about that. And Kobe got his flowers that final season, and it was beautiful to watch, from a fan's perspective. Obviously, we all remember his 60-point game in his last game at Staples Center against the Utah Jazz. It's one of those things where, you're going to remember where you were watching that game, and I remember exactly where I was. And we're going to get back into it in just a bit, but yeah, even after his playing career, like I had mentioned, Kobe became an Oscar winner for the short film Dear Basketball, capturing the essence of his childhood with his father being a basketball player, him trying to emulate his father, trying to fill his footsteps and loving the game of basketball, becoming a player of his own, watching the Lakers, Magic Johnson, and it was such a beautiful film. He won an Oscar for it, and that's something that Kobe, he separates himself from anybody else in basketball history, getting to call himself an Oscar winner. And as I mentioned before, Kobe became an author, writing the Wizard series, Training Camp. That was co-developed by Wesley King. They also released in 2021 season 1 of the Wizard series as well. But then Kobe had also written a book called The Legacy and the Queen, co-written by Annie Matthew, and then Epoca, The Tree of Ekroth, that was written by Ivy Clare, and some other ones. Epoca, The River of Sand, and Legacy and The Double, co-written by Annie Matthew as well. So Kobe, he was far into storytelling. That's what he wanted to do post-basketball. And he said it when he accepted the Oscar too. Just storytelling is such a passion of his, and that was something that he wanted to create, and he was on his way doing so, and he already was doing it. He was already setting the path to his next career phase, and just becoming as passionate as he was about basketball. He was going to take that into storytelling, and that's what was so remarkable about Kobe, is that even though his basketball career stopped, he didn't stop. He found these passions of his, and he just went full force into it. And I feel like that's something that people can learn a very valuable lesson in terms of just taking your own passions and just going full force into it, and just making things happen for your own benefit, and not waiting for other people, not waiting for this, that, or the other to come into your lap, and really just taking the reins of everything and making your passions come true, making your dreams come true. And that's what Kobe Bryant was all about. He was so hungry for success. He was so hungry to be fulfilled in life that he wasn't going to wait for anybody to do it for him. He was going to do it himself. And I feel like that's something that, a lot of people should just learn lessons from and take into stride. That's who Kobe Bryant was at his core. And that's what people respect so much about Kobe. It wasn't just basketball. It was all the other things that he implemented in his career. The hard work. I mean, people will compare Kobe and Michael all the time. And Kobe emulated Michael Jordan to the nth degree. But the one thing that Kobe Bryant had to do to make that happen was that he had to work 10 times harder than everybody else. Because Kobe wasn't the most physical out there. He wasn't the most athletic. He wasn't the tallest. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the best shooter. But he had the absolute most will and drive to become the absolute best he could be, and become the best basketball player that, in his mind, he ever wanted to accomplish being. And that's something that his contemporaries, guys like Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Allen Iverson, those guys that were playing around his time, They didn't match his will. They didn't match his drive. They looked at Kobe and they're like, holy shit, this guy's working out at 5 o'clock in the morning, while they were out clubbing, while they were out drinking. This is what Kobe Bryant was doing. Even at age 18 years old, he didn't want to go out there and live the party life and live the quote-unquote NBA life with the rest of his teammates. He was about putting in the hard work to achieve his goals. And, it alienated a lot of his teammates in the very beginning of his career, and alienated a lot of people from him. But you know what? He separated from himself from the herd. And it really paid off towards the end of his career, because you look at guys like Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Allen Iverson, such talented players, but they're not looked upon as Kobe Bryant is looked upon. Why? Because Kobe outworked everybody. That's just who he was. And if you weren't a person or a player that was going to be all about the hard work and being in the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning when you quite possibly should be, then he don't want to mess with you. If you weren't going to match his intensity, and a lot of people didn't, but if you weren't about hard work and putting in and dedicating your time into your craft, he don't want to mess with you. And that's why he took such a liking to guys like Derek Fisher and Pau Gasol, because they worked endlessly hard. That's why he didn't like guys like Kwame Brown and Smush Barker, because he didn't care for it. All right, so what we're gonna do here, guys, is I have a list here of my top 10 personal favorite Kobe Bryant games of all time. And I'm going to list them off for you. We're going to go into some stats here for the games. And, look, it's not the usual, the games that ESPN broadcasts, This is my own personal list here, guys. Okay, so, look, you may agree, you may not agree, but this is my list, and I'm going to give it to you guys. All right? So here we go. Starting at number 10, it is Game 4 of the 2001 Western Conference semifinals, Lakers versus Kings. Up in Sacramento, the Lakers are leading this series 3-1, looking to close out the Kings and advance to the Western Conference Finals. And it's a hostile crowd up in Sacramento. We're about a year away from the Kings really being able to fully contend against the Lakers. We all know in 2002, the Kings took the Lakers to the limit, forcing them to Game 7. We needed a whole bunch of heroics from Robert Horry in Game 4, and then that Game 7 was a masterpiece as well. But this is the year prior. This is 2001, and the Lakers are the back-to-back defending world champions, and they're on the verge to sweeping the Kings here. And it's still a hostile crowd. The Kings are still very good, but the Kings are being very competitive in this game, and Doug Christie is just challenging Kobe. He's all up in his grill, but there's nothing really they can do about it. Let's look at the stat line here, guys. Kobe Bryant in 48 minutes had 48 points, 15 of 29 of field goals, 1-1 3-pointers, free throws 17 of 19, 16 rebounds. Can you believe that? 48 points and 16 rebounds, a double-double. Monster numbers. 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. And, and also to note, Shaquille O'Neal fouled out of this game. He fouled out of this game in the fourth quarter, and it was really just upon Kobe to really seal the deal here. And this was Kobe. I mean, like, he wasn't the Black Mamba yet, he was still on the rise here, but he was letting the league know that he was one of the best players in the league. And I think Shaq said it after the game that Kobe was the best player in the game. And that was coming from high praise at a time when Shaquille O'Neal was the best player in the league around that time. And Kobe led them to victory into the Western Conference Finals. All right, at number 9, we're going to go flash forward 8 years later. It is Game 1 of the 2009 NBA Finals versus the Orlando Magic at Staples Center. This is Kobe's revenge year. The year prior, he had made the NBA Finals with the Lakers against the Boston Celtics, and the Celtics absolutely trounced the Lakers in Game 6 of the Finals that year. And it was a really turning point for Kobe because, like I had mentioned earlier, he was leading the team, but he really needed to focus on what he could do possibly to make this team as much of an NBA title contender as much as possible. And that was really getting them to hone in on the defensive end. And this year's 2009 team was a great defensive team. Their offense was obviously star-studded with Pau Gasol, Kobe Bryant, Derek Fisher, Trevor Ariza, Lamar Odom at the time, but they really hung their hands on the defensive end, and that's what carried them to the finals that year. They beaten Utah, they had beaten Denver. Who else had they beaten? Houston. I remember that was a 7-game series, so they were really battle tested coming into this finals. And this was against a young Orlando Magic team This was the only time Dwight Howard had carried the Magic to the NBA Finals. Howard had went to the finals about a decade later with the Lakers, but he was no longer a star at that point. But this was the only time Dwight and the Magic went to the finals. They're up against Kobe and the Lakers, and in that game one, Kobe was absolutely sensational. There was nothing really the Magic could ever do to stop Kobe Bryant. And the interesting thing about this game, and I'll read you the stats. In 37 minutes, he went 16 of 34 from field goals. He ended up finishing the game with 40 points, 8 for 8 from the free throw line, had about 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and he was absolutely sensational. There was nothing Michael Petras, who was primarily guarding Kobe during this game, could do to stop Kobe. I mean, I remember this one he had where Kobe fell to the ground, he knocked down the shot, and it was that Kobe grin where he was just like, the intensity was up to a 10, and you just knew that the Magic were fucked. You knew that they were fucked, and he was absolutely sensational during this game. Truly Kobe in his peak prime right here, carrying the Lakers to a Game 1 victory, and it carried all throughout the rest of the NBA Finals here. Famously, after the Lakers had won Game 2, reporter, while Kobe was at his post-game press conference, the reporter talked to Kobe about, hey, why aren't you happy? You guys are up 2-0. And Kobe famously just answered back, what's there to be happy about? Job's not done. Job's not finished. You're up 2-0. It's not finished. There's nothing the reporter could say because it was all true. Learning the lessons that Kobe did the year prior against the Boston Celtics, he wasn't taking anything lightly. And it was on display, and he needed to maintain the focus for the Lakers to get over the hump. That's exactly what happened, and Kobe was named Finals MVP of that year as well. All right, coming up at the number 8 spot is Kobe's 61-point game performance inside Madison Square Garden. It was February 2009, and they were on a road trip around this time, and I think at the beginning of this road trip, they had lost Andrew Bynum to a knee injury, and Bynum would be sidelined for about a month and a half, 2 months going into the playoffs. And so they weren't certain if they were going to get Bynum back in time for the playoffs. But I remember reporters asking Kobe if this team was good enough to win a championship without Andrew Bynum. And I think it really lit a fire under Kobe, because he was like, of course we're good enough to win. We have Pau Gasol, we have Lamar, we have me. And so that really fueled the fire, and Kobe had something to prove coming out to this game inside Madison Square Garden, and did he ever. Going for 61 points, going 19 of 31 from field goals, 3 from 6 from three-point range, 20 for 20 from the free throw line. 20 for 20 from the free throw line. He was absolutely perfect from this game, and Kobe was absolutely perfect throughout the game itself. So it's fitting that Kobe would go 20-20 from the free throw line, carrying the Lakers to a 126-117 victory on the road inside Madison Square Garden. And if I'm remembering this correctly, I fully do believe that the Lakers went undefeated in this road trip itself, if I'm not mistaken. If you guys can look that up, but I do think that the Lakers went undefeated in this road trip, about an 8-game Grammy road trip in 2009. All right, so at the number 7 spot, it's going to be March of 2003. The Washington Wizards, a Michael Jordan-led Washington Wizards in his last season, is going to come up to town at Staples Center and face Kobe and Shaq and the 3-time defending NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers at that point. And it's going to be Kobe's last game ever against MJ. Obviously, we have noted quite extensively how much Kobe has looked up to Michael Jordan throughout his life, throughout his career. And so this is Kobe's last opportunity to face Michael Jordan, even though Jordan was about 39, 38, maybe even 40 years old about this point, and he's near retirement. This is Kobe's last opportunity, and he's going to want to show MJ up, as Kobe always would. We're going to go to the stat line here. In about 41 minutes, Kobe would be 15 of 29 from field goals, 9 of 13 from three-point land, 16 of 18 from free throws, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and he would land with 55 points against Michael Jordan. 55 points in his final ever game against MJ and the Wizards, and it was something that Kobe had in the back of his mind. He had circled this game to face Michael Jordan, and did he ever show up? Famously, everyone's going to remember Kobe and Michael Jordan getting tied up at the end of the basketball court where they both fall down. Kobe gets on top of Michael Jordan and starts playfully starting to punch in. And that was Kobe just showing the ultimate respect to Jordan. Obviously, he's going to play hard against him, but knowing who Michael Jordan was, how much he had looked up to him, that was Kobe's way of just telling Michael, hey, how much I appreciate you, how much I love you. Jordan, on the other hand, he would have about 23 points to finish the game in about 40 minutes, going 10 of 20 from the field goal range. No three-pointers, 3 or 4 from free throws, 1 block, 1 steal, and that's about it for MJ and his stat line that night against the Lakers. Then at the number 6 spot, we're going to go to Christmas Day of 2007 against the Phoenix Suns. This is Kobe coming off of 2 straight playoff losses against the Phoenix Suns, back-to-back years, one in 2006, then the other in 2007, and famously after the 2007 playoff loss in the first round against the Suns, Kobe, he went up in the press conference and spoke about management, and he said, do something and do it now. And throughout that whole summer, Kobe requested to be traded from the Lakers. He felt like management didn't do enough for the Lakers to get into a true contending championship position, and he wanted out of the Lakers. And there were several teams, the Clippers, the Bulls, the Pistons, trying to make trades for Kobe Bryant at that time. And look, they wanted it, and I believe Mark Cuban even actually had a trade almost agreed upon, or maybe it was agreed upon, but at the end of the day, Dr. Jerry Buss talked Kobe out of it, and so they never went through with the trade. Kobe remained the Laker coming into the 2008 season, and that's where it was a pleasant surprise for Kobe and the Lakers. You know, Andrew Bynum's emergence had grown into a very prolific starting center at that point. The team was young, the team was hungry. Derek Fisher, Kobe's running mate from the three-peat era, had just come back, so that solidified a leader in the locker room as well. But Trevor Ariza, Lamar Odom, they were all guys that were just hungry on this team. Luke Walton, Jordan Farmar, and they were playing super well going into Christmas Day, and Kobe had a great game this night. In about 41 minutes that evening, Kobe shot about 12 from 20 from the field goal range, 1 of 3 from three-point land, 13 of 14 from the free throw lane, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and finished the game with 38 points. And people are going to remember the reverse tomahawk dunk Kobe had at the end of the third quarter that evening. What a remarkable performance, and the reason why I have that so high is because that was not only an incredible performance by Kobe, but that was my first ever Laker game that I ever attended in my life. My family had bought tickets for me for Christmas Day that Christmas, and so look, you know, when that's your first game and Kobe's going off like that, you know, against a team that you hate at that time, you know, it's going to be high up on your list. And that's not the only game that I have attended that's on this list, but we're going to get into that in a second here. At the number 5 spot, also against the Phoenix Suns, but it's going to be about a year and a half prior, in May of 2006. This is game number 4 of the first round Western Conference playoffs against the Phoenix Suns. The Lakers are up 2-1 in this series, and they have stolen all the momentum from the previous 3 games. You know, Phoenix was the heavy favorite going into this playoff series against the Lakers. Phoenix had won game 1, but the Lakers had won the next 2 games, one on the road and then the other game 3 at Staples Center, and it seemed like the Lakers had all the momentum, and Phoenix was coming out firing into this game 4. They had much control of this series, but the Lakers kept chipping away, and at the end of the fourth quarter here, it seemed like Phoenix had everything under control, but then with the Lakers down 5 with about 10 seconds remaining, Smush Parker hits a remarkable 3, and then I got to give it to Smush Parker. He ends up coming up with the steal, gets it to Kobe Bryant, and Bryant lays it in, forcing the game into overtime. And then in overtime, it seemed like the Suns again had everything under control. Suns are up 3 with about 10 seconds remaining as well. Kobe goes into the lane, hits a quick layup that cuts the lead to 1, and then Luke Walton ties up Steve Nash to force a jump ball. Walton wins the tip, gets it to Kobe Bryant, and hits an elbow dagger to win the game for the Lakers, 99-98, sending the Lakers up 3-1 in that best-of-7 first-round series against the Suns. Now, unfortunately, the Lakers were not able to capitalize going forward, and the Lakers lost that series in 7 games against the Phoenix Suns. Alright, guys, my number 4 all-time Kobe Bryant game is game number 7 of the 2010 NBA Finals against the Boston Celtics. Now, if this is ranking my all-time Laker games that I've ever watched, it's going to be number 1. This game in that realm is going to be number 1, but this is my all-time Kobe Bryant memories and games, and so this is going to rank number 4 on that list. I talked about this game a little earlier. This game was so rough to watch as a Laker fan. The Lakers could not hit a shot. This was a low-scoring game, as much of a low-scoring game as you're ever going to see in the modern NBA, and it was really, really tough. Celtics' defensive tenacity was not even at a level 10. It was at a level 12 in this game, and they were going to hang their hat and make it as rough and possible on the Lakers as ever, and it really worked the first 3.5 quarters. It really did. The Celtics were up 13 at one point in this game, and it was so tough. I remember not wanting to eat, not wanting to do anything. I was so stressed watching this game. This is probably the most stressed I've ever been watching a game, and Kobe Bryant had a rough game himself. He could not hit a shot from the floor to save his life. A guy that, he was such a prolific scorer, could not score during this game. But this was a remarkable game because he told himself, look, if I'm not able to score, I'm going to do everything else I can possibly to win this game. And that's what Kobe Bryant did. In about 44 minutes, Kobe Bryant went 6 of 24 from the field goal range. That's incredible. 6 of 24. He was so bad shooting in this game. But he did the intangibles. He was 11 from 15 from free throw line. He forced 15 rebounds during this game in order to carry the day for the Lakers. 2 assists, 1 steal, and finished the game with 23 points. And so 15 rebounds and 23 points, a double-double. Even though he went 6-24 from the field, he made his free throws when it counted. He was a monster on the glass, and he hit a clutch shot during the fourth quarter of this game as well, and he did everything he could to will the Lakers to victory in Game 7, and also he trusted his teammates. He trusted Derek Fisher, as always. He trusted Pau Gasol, and he trusted Ron Artest to knock down a timely three-pointer. Even Sasha Vujicic, like I had mentioned, to knock down a timely free throw attempt. And so he did that, and the Lakers reaped the benefits that night, winning championship number 16 that night. Okay, now we're getting into our top 3 here. In our number 3 spot, this is going to be the Achilles game versus Golden State in 2013. What a rough game this was to watch as a Laker fan, but you know what? It was one of the most awe-inspiring things you could ever watch as a sports fan. This is the night Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles, and he walked off on his own 2 feet. And before he did that, not only did he walk off, he hit 2 free throws to help the Lakers win that game, and it was such an inspiring thing to watch. And if you remember during that game, Kobe Bryant was a wreck. He had originally went down in the first half with a knee injury, that one looked really, really bad. He was hobbling off at that point, and I believe we were probably only in the second quarter at that point. And then in the third quarter, he was hobbling off at the other end of the court, and you're thinking, oh my God, this guy's, he should be sitting right now. He's hurt, but he just kept playing, and the more he kept playing, the better he was. He was finding his groove finally in that game, because that game throughout wasn't a totally great game for Kobe, but in the fourth quarter, he started hitting clutch shots, and you're thinking, you know what, these injuries, they're probably not that serious, because this guy's putting on the cape once again and trying to bolster this team not only to a win, but into the playoffs in general, because during that season, this is the year that we had acquired Steve Nash, we had acquired Dwight Howard, and it was such a train wreck. Nash had injured his back the second game of the season. Dwight Howard was coming off back surgery, and he wasn't a fit necessarily with Kobe and Pau, and so Dwight was such a drama queen that year, and it was a train wreck, and we had started off horribly. That was the year we fired Mike Brown. We thought we were going to get Phil Jackson back. They ended up hiring, Jim Buss ended up hiring Mike D'Antoni, and you know what? The Lakers had crawled from, I believe, they were almost about 10 games under 500, maybe a little less, but they got themselves into playoff position, and they're trying to become this number 8 or number 7 seed in the Western Conference heading into the playoffs that year. And it was a pivotal game against an upcoming Golden State Warriors team led by Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. And I remember Stephen Curry going off in this game, and you're thinking, holy shit, this guy is good. And they were taking it to us. And Klay Thompson, he was taking it to us as well, but Kobe had gotten him. He had gotten a little revenge before he had tore his Achilles that night, because I think Klay had crossed up Meta World Peace and Kobe got him back. Kobe got Clay back, and it was pretty cool to watch. But unfortunately, late in the fourth quarter that night, Kobe drives to the basket. He thinks somebody had kicked him. Maybe it was in his head. He thought maybe it was Harrison Barnes or whoever, and he comes up hobbling again, once again. But this time he stays down for a second, and he starts feeling around his Achilles area, and that's when he figures out that he probably tore it. And Kobe, being the machismo man that he is, walked off on his own feet. But again, that wasn't before sinking 2 free throws with a torn Achilles. Unbelievable. And Kobe's, he admitted to this later. He was trying to figure out in his head how he could play, maybe just running on not his heel, but like on the tips of his toes or whatever. And it just wasn't going to work out. He needed to be subbed out as quickly as possible, and that was his season right there. And he was never again the same after tearing his Achilles. But that Achilles game, it's so up on this list, so high up, because just the true the will, the fortitude that it takes to not only stand up on the torn Achilles itself, but to sink 2 free throws and just have mind over matter. And that's something that Kobe Bryant was, he prided himself in, and that's something he definitely took very, very seriously. After the game, Kobe was a wreck. He was very, very emotional because he had worked so hard, and this was his life's work, just being up in flames in a second. And for a mere second there, he didn't know if he could continue, but then he famously said once his wife and kids walked into the door, he knew that it was going to be a journey for him to come back, but he was going to do it hell or high water. All right, we're into the final 2 here. One of these games you're going to be able to guess, but the other, I don't think you will. So for my number 2, it's going to be Kobe's last game ever in his entire career, his 20-year career, his final game against the Utah Jazz in 2016. This whole season, his final year, was pretty much all about Kobe and his retirement year. The team was terrible. They were, 16 and 60 something at this point. It was an embarrassment of a year. The young guys, they were just thinking to join up because they're so green. The veterans on this team didn't make any difference at all. And this entire season was just basically wrapped around Kobe's retirement and celebrating Kobe as much as it should have been, And so people had this game circled for many, many months down the pipeline. And it was all culminating to this final game against Utah at Staples Center, April 16th, 2016. It's one of those games where you know exactly where you were when you were watching this game. I remember I was with my brother and my family. We were at a friend's house, and we were thinking before the game, look, if he has 25, 30 points tonight, that's going to be great, because we just did not want to see Kobe stinking up the joint, because Kobe did not really have it towards the end of his career. His legs are shot, his knees were shot, and Kobe's performances were not that great. He was only playing about 15 to 20 minutes a game when he was playing, and it wasn't anything significant, and his season average had been completely lower than it ever had been in his previous 19 years, and he was ready to retire. And so we didn't know what we were going to get out of Kobe this final game, but did the Lakers ever make a spectacle of it? And truly, truly deserving for Kobe, it was a spectacle. A lot of his former teammates were there, but not just that, the entire city, I feel like the entire state of California was celebrating Kobe this game. And not just California, I feel like the entire league was celebrating Kobe going into this game. Although I'll always have a bone to pick with ESPN picking the Warriors to go on ESPN regular. They chose Kobe's last game to go on ESPN2 over the Warriors, and I'll never forgive them for that. And I get it. The Warriors they're chasing history. The previous record in NBA history for the best record was it 72-10, and the Warriors were going for 73-9, and they did, and that's history. But this is Kobe we're talking about. He takes a backseat to nobody. Especially his last game. But unfortunately, ESPN, they thought differently, and so Kobe was relegated to ESPN2. Yeah, I'll always have a bone to pick with them about this. But it's Kobe's last game. And like I said, a bunch of his old former teammates were there. Outside of Staples Center was a zoo. They had everything set up for Kobe, for fans to interact with, in terms of just giant pictures of Kobe. I think it was, was it Kobe Land at that point? It might have been. but it was totally decorated towards Kobe, and it was a celebration outside. Look, Kobe, he's besides him and Magic Johnson, he's the only player really to ever deserve such a celebration like this, and the Lakers gave it to him. They really did. To start the game, Kobe missed his first several shots, but once he got comfortable out there, Kobe, he was a gunslinger out there. He was going to give it all he could because there was literally no other game for him to save it for, so he left everything out on the floor during that game, to the point where he was just like, man, he was breathing so hard and so heavy, and his legs were giving out on him, and he admitted that his legs felt so heavy. But my God, you wouldn't know it because this guy went absolutely bananas in his last game. Ended up scoring 60 points, and the Lakers were down in this game too. Kobe brought the Lakers all the way back from I think they were down about 7 with about a couple minutes left in the game. Kobe roared them back, as Kobe did so many other times throughout his illustrious career, and he gave him a gamer, like Mike Tirico said on commentary. He hit his last game winning shot for the Lakers during that game. It wasn't at the buzzer, but it was with several seconds remaining in this game, and Kobe, he did it once again for the Lakers, carrying them, willing them to victory, and scoring 60 points in his last game. I remember just being with my brother, being with his friend, and we were just crying like babies. This was our hero here, and he was riding off into the sunset. And and it was such Kobe fashion for him to do so. The crowd was electric that night. The crowd hasn't been that electric since that night, I fully believe. That Staples Center crowd has not been electric since that night. And it was for a hell of a reason, for Kobe's last game. And it's something that I still look at on YouTube from time to time, and man, I just get a little teary-eyed because that's my hero out there going out one last time and doing what he did best. Okay, finally, my number one Kobe Bryant game of all time. And it's going to catch you by surprise. We're going to set it up here. It is March 8th, 2013, my 22nd birthday. My family and I had went to the Laker game for my birthday, and it was the best game, the best birthday gift I could have ever gotten that night. This was Kobe's truly last great year in 2013 before he tore his Achilles. Just about a month later, he would tear his Achilles, which is kind of weird to think about. But Kobe was playing absolutely bananas during this time. I mean, he was willing the Lakers' two-way playoff spot. Like I had mentioned, they were terrible that year, but Steve Nash and Dwight Howard, but they gotten better, and Kobe was just leading them on a tear. And in this game, the Lakers were down the entire game. And I remember Toronto. It was against the Toronto Raptors at this point. And I always tell people my favorite game I ever went to was against the Raptors, and they automatically assume it's the 81. It's not. This is the game on my birthday, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the Lakers they're down the entire game. I believe they're down about maybe 15 points at some point in this game. And they looked dead in the water. And fourth quarter comes, and Kobe just puts the cape on. Like I mentioned so many times during this podcast. He puts the cape on, and he just overrides everybody here. He keeps scoring at will. Three-pointer, dunks, inside the perimeter, whatever he wanted to will the Lakers, coming back into the fourth quarter. And there's one particular sequence which it always gets me. Kobe has the rock here, and he's about 30 feet away from the basket. He's being double teamed by DeMar DeRozan and I forget who else. Might have been Rudy Gay. So he's double teamed. He has nowhere to go. Pump fake. 2 pump fakes. Just lets off this wild three-pointer. Sinks it. 30 feet out from the basket. Sinks it with about 5 seconds remaining. I forget to mention that Steve Nash had hit a clutch three-pointer, and then Kobe had hit a clutch three-pointer as well to keep it within striking distance. And then when he hit that shot, that was the loudest I've ever heard a crowd go crazy. And Kobe hit that shot. And then in overtime, the game is in overtime here. The game is on the line basically here. Kobe has the ball. He's at the top of the key here. I remember Raptor center Aaron Gray, that was his name. He came out to double team Kobe, but he came out way too soon, which in Stu Lance, the legendary Stu Lance, he describes it as parting of the Red Sea because it leaves this giant space for Kobe just to go behind go past Aaron Gray here, go to the basket, attack it, and it gives the Lakers a 107 to 105 lead. And the Lakers ended up winning the game all in the hands of Kobe Bryant. And you're going to think, well, okay, what's so special about that game? It's special because I felt like at that point in my life, look, watching Kobe, he was my hero. And you guys can relate to this. We all felt the magic from Kobe Bryant at certain points. And for him to be able to win this game on my birthday, it was just nothing that ever can be matched in my life. And I'm truly, truly grateful to have seen that from Kobe on my birthday. And I'll never forget that. So that's why it's my number one. All right, you guys. I know that was a lot, but that's going to conclude today's podcast about Kobe Bryant. It's been 6 years since his passing. And, every day, I miss Kobe, and I'm sure you guys miss Kobe as well. And I know his family is doing him well, doing him proud. Lakers Nation is obviously doing him well and proud. They will look at Kobe fans are the fiercest fans ever. They'll fight you tooth and nail for fighting his legacy, and that's what he was all about. And we take Kobe very, very seriously here in Laker lore, and we'll never forget him. We miss him every single day. But yes, thank you guys again for tuning into the LA Sports Roundup Podcast. I can't thank you guys enough for tuning in each and every week. We release a podcast. Our next podcast is going to be directly on football and how good the LA Rams are going to be. Look out for that later this week. And again, guys, don't miss anything. Subscribe, like, follow us on all of our social media platforms at Lace 'em Up Sports with an underscore. That's Lace 'em Up Sports with an underscore on Instagram, YouTube, X. Obviously, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it may be, follow us, like, and subscribe. And I can't thank you guys enough for doing your part. So until next time, guys, we'll see you.